Welcome back, friends, for another episode of Fake Nerds Watch. We are starting another Marvel series. We're starting Loki. We're here to talk about the first 3 episodes. I am, of course, Sparkz Witty. I'm joined by Ryan?
Ah! Oh, God. Guys, time keeps on slipping into the future.
Oh, that was so uncomfortable to look at.
Oh, it felt really great, though.
It was like you were being born and dying at the same time.
What are we here to talk about? Secret Invasion?
Thank God, no. We're talking Loki. This is Ryan Eliopoulos. We're, of course, joined by Ben Magnet. Anybody listening, there's a visual gang. You missed it.
I was time slipping.
Yeah, definitely. Also, Ryan, we're here to talk about a better show.
True. Thank God. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, welcome back. Welcome back to Fake Nerds Watch, as Spark said. Season 2, y'all. I think Loki Season 1 is the best Marvel TV show. I think that's undeniable, in my opinion. I think it's also one of the better things that we've had since Endgame ended. So I'm very excited. I'm super excited to be back. Do you guys think the quality level is still there? Ben, I just want to hear a quick yes or no. Is it still there? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Sparks, do you agree?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I am. If I had to do the Emperor's up or down, I will go up. But I definitely am feeling a little more lukewarm on the season. But I'm still really enjoying it because it just looks really good. It looks like it just looks like a TV show, which is incredible.
But to be fair, I also would have been shaky. Pretty sure I was. Excuse me, not that shaky because we were still early into the MCU on Disney Plus days. Yeah. But like, it's not like episode 3 and 4 of Loki were 100% bangers to me. I particularly remember back then was when I was like, how come Loki can throw a whole tower with his head?
We were all in agreement. We were all in agreement.
So there was definitely like stuff there where I wouldn't have said, oh yeah, this is gonna be one of the best. But
looking back now, we had it so good, guys.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
I will say that I think Loki continues to be able to hold that mantle, season 1 in particular, because it was a season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And like the only show that I would argue even kind of competes is She-Hulk, which also I feel, even though they never said there will be a season 2, is very much a season 1.
Yeah.
And the shows that feel that way did come out the best.
Crazy. Shows that feel like TV shows feel good. Yeah.
When they're actual TV shows and not long ass movies, they turn out to be pretty dang good. I mean, I'll still argue, or I'll still mention that I still enjoy WandaVision just because of how different it is. But we're not here to talk about WandaVision. We're here to talk about Loki season 2. And
so Ben, real quick, we're talking episodes 1 through 3. Episode 1 is Ouroboros, directed by Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, written by Eric Martin. Then we're talking episode 2, Breaking Bad, directed by Dan DeLua, and written by Eric Martin. And then we're talking episode 3, 1893, directed by Kasra Farahani. Written by Eric Martin and Kasra Farahani and Jason O'Leary, with story by Eric Martin.
Love it. Real quick, so we have new not showrunners because Marvel doesn't do that yet, but the guys who are in charge of this season, Eric Martin and Aaron Benson and Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. Those two directors, Benson and Moorhead, I'm huge fans of theirs. They've done really awesome low-budget sci-fi horror movies. They worked on VHS, The Endless, Spring, Resolution, Synchronic. They're really awesome indie filmmakers. So like them coming to this jump, Marvel often likes to get smaller directors to join a thing. I feel their presence in here because this is still a really well-crafted show. We'll talk about the story and stuff, but like I think visually, this show is top-notch. I think it looks incredible. I have no problems with the visuals. Every time Loki time slips, it's the grossest, coolest thing I've ever seen. I want it to happen all the time. Sorry for Loki, though. It probably sucks.
Lots of practical sets. Like, it's like there's just a whole Western town that we spend time in. I'm like, wow, that's not the volume. I love it. So on a visual level, I'm just happy that we have a show that has like a direction and a vision. The story, though, I will say it's leaving me a little bit to be desired. But we'll get into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first 3 episodes. They're still trying to. I don't want to say they're trying to grab you. I mean, we know what the hook is. He who remains is dead. A bunch of variants are walking around. The sacred timeline is branching like no tomorrow. It's absolute chaos at the TVA. Everyone's realizing their variant. It's like this whole thing. But looking at episodes 1 through 3 as a whole, like Ryan, you say if you were the Emperor, it'd be a thumbs down, thumbs up sort of thing. I agree this is a thumbs up, but it's more of a like 3/4 of a thumbs up. It's still a thumbs up. But I will also say that I'm more excited to watch this show than other previous Marvel shows. Like, I won't like looking back on Secret Invasion. That was a chore to get through. That was out. That was like it. I was not excited for a new episode of Secret Invasion. I was like, oh joy, here we go again. Who's a Skrull?
I really try to stay positive, even in times when it's hard to. But like near the end of Secret Invasion, I'm just like, you guys aren't even. I feel like you guys aren't even trying to win me over anymore. But anyway, we have a whole discussion about that. That will be out by the time.
We did. But not to linger on Secret Invasion for a whole lot more. But this does feel like a breath of fresh air because, as you said, this feels like an actual television show. Each episode thus far has a clear beginning, middle, and end with a little hook at the end of the show or the end of the episode to be like, here's something else, or here's a thread that we're going to explore next episode. And
I wasn't going to go here, but I think you queued it up. I don't want you to get too far down the road, Ben, because I think you queued it up very well, where you're like, we all know the score. We all know what's going on here. He who remains is dead. Now the branching timelines and the multiple Ks come together. And I think one of the problems I'm having with the season is that the characters don't all know this. Like, we've had Loki tell Mobius, sure, but like, this is not the problem that everybody's working on. The thing that we were left hanging on from season 1 is not the thing we're focusing on, and it's become background. And I'm not upset about that, but I think we are convoluting with a lot of other things layering on top that we are losing sight of that being the thrust narrative. And my concern is less about the season or even the show handling that than it is, I think this is actually making the Kang problem worse.
So it's interesting because season 1 ends with like, okay, so now the Kang floodgates are open, right? But the problem of season 2 is the multiverse is in danger and we have to save it. So we have a whole plot about having to fix this time loom over, which is not done yet. And by the time we watch it, so it's going to continue probably for the rest of the season, I'd have to assume, right?
I'll say, like, just real quick, because we do the jump to the future in the first episode.
Yeah.
I'm very certain that's the last episode. And I'm very certain that like the end of the season is about successfully or unsuccessfully tightening the loom.
Yeah.
So the branches aren't freaking out. But like, that's going to be the season's plot, not, oh, there's more Kang variants that are coming. That's going to be pushed. I think that's going to be pushed back even further to not be.
I don't want to bring future episodes into this, but episode 4 is out as of recording this. And that is not the case. Okay. But I didn't want to bring that up because like we haven't seen it, but I do know there is more Kang stuff. We just haven't seen it yet. But I do still think that's a problem. That like that is the big crux of it. But I guess I'm not as well. I guess I just don't. I'm not as perturbed by it just because like we're still getting variants of Kang. It's just like we have to have him save the world instead of destroy it.
I think
before he can destroy it.
I think it's more that I think we've in a 6-episode structure season. I think we've thrown too many different problems. Ahead of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And like, while I've enjoyed the episodes, I will say that like we did like set up, then one and done on Doc's destroying branch timelines.
Yeah.
That was not
that's honestly
spend a lot of time
one of the biggest issues I have with the season so far is that the ending of episode 2 feels like there's like an episode missing.
Yeah.
Like we are
even the start of episode 2.
Like we are straight into we're destroying all these timelines. It feels like we're in the middle of a war. And
we leave off from episode 1 with Brad like loyal to Doc's and heading out on this mission, and we pick up episode 2 and he's abandoned her and living his own life on the sacred timeline. I think you can do that kind of a leap because one of my problems is that Doctor Who, and I've watched a lot of it lately, but like Doctor Who is very good at a character is on one timeline and another character is on a different timeline, and so in the same episode you're staying with the character who has the linear close timeline, but they're picking up with a character whose timeline is much broader and different things have happened much quicker. And I feel like we needed that with the Brad situation. Like I needed a greater implication about the fact that like Loki and Mobius have kind of gone from one moment to the next, but Brad has had like a breadth of time that we are just now able to pick up on because that's when they found him. And it's supposed to be, but he got away with like years of hunting, of hiding, because time is different in the TVA, so they exist in a singular nexus point, but time is happening out there.
Yeah.
And Brad has had time happening to him, and I don't think that they nail that concept at anywhere near the level that I want them to.
Sure. I really like episode 2, but I do agree that like there's just like it feels like half the episode's missing. But I really like all the Brad stuff. I think that stuff's really
no,
fun.
it's really good. Like, I'm not disparaging it. Once they have Brad, I'm with it.
Yeah.
It's this like, how did we get from Brad episode 1 to Brad episode 2?
Well, they explain it because of Sylvie, and he finds Sylvie, and he's like, he wants her to have her own life, and that he should have his own life. And it's enough for me, but I do want more. Because like I understand, like once we get to Sylvie and she's living her own life, like Brad realizes he can also have that. He can be the person he wants to be. So like I'm okay with that, but I needed more of it.
It's weird to queue up this doc story real quick, Ben, in episode 1. And by connection of Brad.
Yeah.
We're done with it in episode 2. Like
we're not though.
But in the sense of what were they building? What were they doing?
Yeah.
That whole mission.
That is my biggest problem.
These characters, that relationship is underdeveloped. That idea of like, you can't do a thing where Brad like leans his head into her and then say, oh, by the way, he went AWOL.
Yeah.
And that be like, yeah. I mean, I like on paper and I like the performance of what Brad's saying about why he abandoned and everything, but it feels like we miss something in the detail of the character, or even like, again, if we had that knowledge of like that, I don't feel that the show lends like that would give me more of the belief like Brad's been at this for years.
Yeah.
Like that this has been a long period of time that they did not know what Brad was doing.
Brad Wolf, the Zaniac. Excuse me.
Ben, you were gonna say.
Yeah. So actually, I do agree with you guys. I actually do think that is 100% true and valid. And the more I think about it, the more that kind of does rub me the wrong way. But my biggest problem is how the thing happening to Loki is essentially resolved and fixed by episode 1. And in the trailers, it seemed like it was going to be a much bigger problem throughout the entire season. And that's Loki's time slipping bit. Because all that is solved in episode 1. And I'm like, they could have kept that as, I'm trying to think. I know there has been like a few instances in other shows, like in other superhero shows, where our hero has like this condition and it affects them throughout the entire season until the season finale where it's either fixed or it gives them a greater consequence. I know there's something out there. I just can't think of one on the top of my head. But the time slipping thing would have been such a good wrinkle to add more conflict, drama, and just all these horrible consequences that the entire season could have been Loki's version of Murphy's Law.
They wrote themselves in a corner with that because it's such an incredible premise that like he's bouncing between not just the past but the future. The problem is they can't have that through the entire season because they have to write like twice as much material, and I just don't think I think they set it up and they're like, oh no, if we do this every episode, then every episode will have to have a Back to the Future. Oh, this is happening then, and this is happening there, and that probably would have been a really more engaging season if this is constantly happening, but that's also way more effort. And I think they were like, oh, we have to get rid of this real quick.
I would agree with you if it weren't 6 episodes.
Yeah.
And I think for 6 episodes, you can figure it
out.
And the other thing is like, you can write something like this, the 3rd episode that we'll get to, Loki is most of the time not in TVA for that.
Yeah.
If you said that only happens to him when he's in the TVA,
that's true.
You solve half that problem.
That's true.
So like, I hear you.
No,
I do think there was a interesting way to not have that. Now, that being said, I do want to kind of go back what Ben was saying. When we end Loki season 1, we all did our discussions on it. We talked about it. We all, as I think is correct, the read from the end of season 1 is that, oh, the TVA has been changed.
Yes.
He goes back and the TVA is now under a different Kang, a more overt Kang.
A conqueror. Yeah.
And Mobius doesn't remember him.
That's been retcon.
Yes. Yeah, I think I think that was the intention initially. As you said, we have different creative people. Yes. And I think they realized Loki and Mobius not knowing each other is not good.
This is
not interesting and not a part of the show that we want.
This
and
is
like,
for the better, I think.
And like, while I liked the idea of a TVA that was changed to be more overtly about Kang, recognizing that Loki and Mobius need to be still have their relationship, and I do think the key key part of the show.
Yeah.
B-15 too, yes.
Although she's not doing anything in this season.
I was really excited at episode 1 because she was very present, and then it started getting less and less, and I'm like, you are wasting Wumi Masako.
100%.
I'm so mad. Anyway, but I think that was very smart. Because like the idea, looking back on it, like the idea of a season where Loki and Mobius don't know each other was utterly uninteresting.
Having to redo that whole relationship again.
That relationship is key to why the show works. So the idea of erasing it, I think this was a very smart pivot to
I agree.
He's in the past. But that being said, now that they made that pivot, I do think like trapping all the interesting stuff about uncovering that past to episode 1 was a little bit of a hitch. I do think it should have been spread out across the season a little bit better. Even if it is like that we got more clues about things that Loki's trying to figure out at the same time.
Yeah. More of a mystery.
Present, but he had like stuff that he uncovered in the past, but he didn't get to see all of it. So he's trying to like find more of those things throughout the season in the heart of the TVA. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
I do think, like, to your point, Ben, I would have liked it if his time slipping carried past. I would have at least liked it if the stuff related to him knowing things from the past was a thing that carried over across the season.
Yeah.
I think a smart pivot, but a pivot that has not fully bloomed.
To talk about episode 1, which honestly I love episode 1 totally. Like,
I think it's great.
I like, especially Ouroboros getting what's his, I forget his name.
Ke Huy Quan.
Thank you. As Ouroboros, he's incredible. He's just anything he's in, he's great. And what I loved about what the season was presenting us was Avengers Endgame and Infinity War introduced that time travel doesn't work the way Back to the Future time travel works. You go back in time, it doesn't change the past, right? When the TVA is concerned, it's Back to the Future logic, because you do something in the past to the future and it affects it. And I love that because you have the incredible, my favorite scene so far in this whole show is Ouroboros going, he didn't tell me that. Wait a minute. Yes, he did. And it was 300 years ago. And that is so fun. Yeah. And I was expecting that to happen throughout the entire season. And again, like you said, like it's all truncated in that first episode. And I'm like, man, if this were the whole show where people are constantly like, wait, I think you told me this before, that would have been really fun. But again, I think they just got like, I don't want to say lazy, but like, we can't overcomplicate this complicated show already. And I'm like, you really could have.
It was really, it's a really sharply written, well-performed scene where we're bouncing between Loki and Mobius, both talking to him at different points in time. And he's like, that can't happen in the TVA. You just saw it. Yeah. I'm having a hard time reconciling that.
And then he said that.
And then it's like, wait. I want to sum it up because it's Mobius being like, wait, are you saying that he's talking to you in the past and you're just remembering it now? And he's like, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I see no flaw in that logic. And I'm like, there it is.
Looking right at the camera.
About the time travel is, doesn't that work?
I love it. I love those moments when they look right at the camera and tell you this. Like, that's like the joke I always make of like, they're just telling you, audience, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I love Ke Huy Quan in this show so much. I mean,
we're going to die.
Like ever since he had his huge comeback with Everything Everywhere All at Once, everything that he's been in and out, I've just been like, yay!
Yeah.
Just championing that man for I mean, him as Ouroboros, just his his bluntness is just so funny, and like just him like constantly talking about how he wrote the TVA guidebook, and obviously nobody except for Casey has read it. And I mean, later on, Victor Timely, but. Just Obi is awesome. I love him. He's
the constant mentions of like your skin's gonna peel off, and like Mobi's like, I don't want my skin to peel off. It's just so
them battling about which is worse.
Removing yourself from the timeline or getting your skin peeled off. Love it. I think the first episode starts so strong, and it like puts me in a good faith of how the rest of the season's gonna go. And then episode 2, kind of like here's like half an episode, which again I really like all the stuff we got in episode 2. It's just like. Some things happen so fast. I really love the dialogue with Brad and Loki. All that stuff's so good.
Just staying on episode 1 for a bit. That comedy, the Loki Mobius, like it's very much the, oh yeah, we're back, baby. This is it. This is the jam. Yep. Really, really loved episode 1. I can't stress enough. I thought they were so smart in how they pivoted. Like you said, B-15 is far more present. We get the championing of we have to stop all pruning stuff going on.
I like the introduction of like the new like time society people, because like someone has to take over, and it's all of these like old fogies. And there's that one who's like, I've always gave a guilty verdict. I don't have to. And I'm like, cool, that's cool. Like we see progress in the TVA. That's really cool. And then I don't want to go to episode 2. Sorry. In episode 1, when Loki like prunes the wall and you see the kings and like you see his actual like fear, and I'm like, man, like I feel it. Like I feel how scared Loki is because like so much happens in episode 1. Well, and then I feel like we kind of lose some of that.
And he does a really good job when he's doing the conversation with Mobius, and he says like, we got to the end of time and the man made sense.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to deal with that. Like I was prepared for a villain and he made sense. And like Loki is still in the moment of processing it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we came to a draw, and it's like, oh, you both kicked each other through time doors simultaneously, and he's like, no, stop.
That's a Sylvie staple. She's gonna do that a lot, kicking people through doors. I love it.
Yeah. I think I really love Owen Wilson in the big dumb suit.
Oh, the oversized suit.
Yeah, going out there.
Yeah.
I think that's really great. His like comedy beats and just like really not jazzed about what he's gonna do.
And the time loom, again, like the special effects, like whether it's practical or CGI, look incredible. Like the time loom idea, like the millions of timelines funnel to help the sacred timeline is such a cool idea. And before we get to episode 2 with all like the destroying of them, like all the multiple branches just happening, but like you can't destroy them because there's trillions of lives in every single one of those timelines, and like that feels like that feels real.
Yeah.
And then I think they really undermine it later.
The fact that like B-15, when she's looking at the timeline and she realizes that all these timelines, all these branches are people living their lives. There's like just yes, it's weird they take these giant concepts, these vast giant quantity of numbers, like these vast quantity of lives, multiple universes, and all these branches in this timeline as like,
it's hard to quantify sometimes. It's because how big we're talking.
Like the I don't want to jump into episode 2, but at the same time, the scene where she's just looking at the timeline branch, the branches being pruned, and she just realizes that those are trillions upon quintillions. That's a number, right? Quintillion.
It's all too many lives.
It's just so much is gone, and it's just like
all the good what if episodes.
Yeah, all the good what if episodes. Yeah, it's essentially if Thanos snapped 20 million times.
Yeah. It's strong, and it's a strong baseline to have there of like, we need to solve this problem. I get like not everybody being tactically worried about the man at the end of time and the Kang warning and all that kind of stuff, and being like,
they don't know
right now. The timelines are just like freaking out, and it's like, but like really, what's at risk is outside of like Doc's like going and destroying the timelines and everything. What's at risk is the TVA.
Yeah,
like that's all. Is they're just trying to kind of like secure their base so that they can still manage what they're trying to manage about the timelines. But like, if the timelines break out of the loom, the timelines just exist.
Yeah,
like it's not bad for them; it's bad for the TVA.
Yeah.
Which I think is also an interesting and important piece of.
There's a great moment in where Loki, he discovers a tape. It's of Ravonna and a Kang. And from the comics, if you know, like Ravonna and Kang have like a long history of being lovers and enemies and lovers and like that.
And someone else was listening to it. But what's really cool is like we know that Kang and Ravonna have a relationship that Ravonna does not have right now. Which means like all these times of like, oh yeah, all y'all have been mind wiped. Like Mobius potentially hundreds of times, Ravonna potentially hundreds of times. It's like nobody knows what they're really dealing with, except for maybe Loki and Sylvie, which is really cool. And then I do feel like how episode 1 is so strong, and then I feel like again we lose some of that spark the further we go on. Go ahead, Ben.
I would say episode 1 starts off strong. Episode 2 teeters out a little bit. There's still some good stuff in there, but then episode 3 brings me right back into the fold. It's like, let's go. Are we done with episode 1? Because I do have some thoughts on episode 2, and I don't want to.
I'm just gonna some thoughts. X5, which is Brad. I'm kind of surprised that we never like. It's fine. It's just like extra texture stuff. But it was most interesting to me. If you notice, he stands like this.
Yeah.
And there's a scar that goes across his arms and his chest armor.
Yeah.
So that means that like whatever happened to him happened when he was like in this kind of pose, which I think is weird.
It's a natural pose.
Yeah, it's a natural pose that he got slashed in anyway. It's just a weird thing.
Your phone's a green screen. I just noticed that. That's fine.
Oh yeah. Wumi Wasaku's giving 110%. It's really weird to me, and like we'll get into the obvious appearance of her in episode 3, but like it's weird to me that when we meet the other leaders, none of them give a shit where Renslayer is. They don't even care that she's AWOL. It's not even a factor they're bringing up. The person who was like, you know, effectively outside Miss Minutes running it. They're not like, where did she go? What happened? They're not calling her a traitor. They're not, none of that. None of that is a factor in their mind. And I do think that's a little bizarre because they're the people who were like the rank right under her.
If I had to give a bullshit reason, it's because like they've all now been promoted and there's like, I don't even want to think about the last person who ran this. We're just going to fix this shit. But like, they don't really like, they don't give that off at all.
Right.
But that's just like what I imagine.
I also, this went back to like, this was a thought I had before episodes 2 and 3 came out. When I was watching episode 1, I'm like, it's weird that we don't care more about where Renslayer went. Like Renslayer abandoned Post in a way where it's like, yo, she knows shit. At least that was the knowledge we were working with from the way she left in season 1.
And she doesn't really.
And right, we know now.
He's just like courier for the He Who Remains is.
But that's not. That's also, I think, a bit of a retcon from season 1, and I don't know how I feel about that one.
Well, I think that's
that from episode 3.
I think that's because it's Miss Minutes who gives her the mission.
Sure.
So like, I don't think she has it before season 1.
She seemed, but we like going back to season 1. She seemed to know about the robots. That did not surprise her.
Yes. And
so also kind of an implied knowledge of the greater machinations, even if she didn't know. Like she knew about the man at the end of time.
Yeah, but I don't think she. This version of Ravonna hasn't met him. She's been right. She's been
yes.
But I feel you.
But I feel like that's a little bit of a shift.
Sure.
I think they're trying to mask it very, very much. But I do think it's a shift from like what they. To be fair, they did not give her enough presence or character in the first season to firmly establish what she knew and what her intentions were, because they left it as, we're going to solve that later.
That's kind of why I'm okay with it, because like there wasn't a lot to work with her, to be honest.
But going from season 1 and then before we see her in season 2 without that information, when I'm going through those episodes in season 2, it is kind of like Renslayer seemed to be really in on this. Like nobody cares. Nobody's after Renslayer.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah. Until her temp pad pops up and they're like, no, but we're really after Miss Minutes. Like nobody gives a shit that Renslayer's taken off.
Yeah, I do.
The elevator, how how the time slipping looks bit is comedy gold. Especially revealing the other person in the elevator looking at it horrified.
How bad does it look? Doesn't look that bad.
Yeah. I think that covers everything that I would have noted in
very strong opening.
Ke Huy Quan comes in really strong, and that's I like this is progressional from episode 1 to 2, but like the return of Casey, the extra character who's now also being roped into the gang, kind of doing things. I think that's fun.
I like Casey. I think he's fun. I'm really bummed out that B15 has just been really reduced.
that she's basically Casey's level of
now.
Yes, like, it bothers me too.
He kind of went from just being like a guy at a desk to being like a tech genius, which again I don't have a problem with. That's like, look at Tej from the Fast and Furious or whatever. That doesn't bother me. But like it just like B15 was like such a prominent role, and I'm like, oh, she kind of feels like background in the season, and I'm like, oh man.
And it didn't feel that way like up until 10 minutes into episode 2, I'd say. Because that first 10 minutes, like I remember being super excited when she also showed up to try and capture Brad. And I'm like, oh shit, she's here too.
Yeah. But then they're like, oh, never mind.
Yeah. And then they're like, nah, but now like she's got to just stay at base.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? What is she doing? She's like trying to kind of manage things, but like someone else can do that. She's a person who goes out on the roll. I don't understand why she's not getting to episode 3. I don't understand why she's not also there.
Yeah.
For the ranking, other than like juggling too many characters, which whatever.
I wonder like maybe it's a scheduling thing, I hope they're just not like, we don't need her in the season as much, because like she was a vital
I think
character.
They don't know what to do with her.
Yeah.
I honestly, like, I'm being honest. I think they know she's a talented actor.
Yeah.
And they don't know what to do with her. And I think they're struggling.
Yeah.
To figure it out.
Yeah.
Because I think like other than being the mouthpiece of, I personally have now seen the lives that exist outside the timeline and understand this and recognize it and will champion this fight. They're not giving her a lot.
I have a feeling she'll have more to do later in the season. I'm hoping, because I have a feeling that they're gonna like the TVA is gonna go from being like an offensive force to like a defensive force.
Sure.
And I think she might be like the new lead, because I don't think Mobius is gonna want to lead the TVA. I think his trajectory is like I don't know, something different.
Yeah, I think there's a distinct possibility of that. I just want her to have a character that's not just I manage the thing.
Yeah.
And right now it's mostly I manage the thing.
Yeah. Let's talk about Brad Wolfe, the Zaniac, who is a real Marvel character.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, he was. I think he showed up in Thor, like a '70s issue of Thor for the first time, back when our huge heroes also fought small scale villains. But I love this premise. I think it's a really cool idea. Again, I don't think it's explored enough, but this idea that like, this guy who is all about the TVA, and then he realizes, I can have my own life. I want to be a movie star. So he goes back to the Is it the 70s or the 80s?
70s,
it's the 80s,
yeah.
so it's like a slasher.
It's the 80s.
And he becomes a famous movie star, and I think that's a really fun, cool idea. I think it's again, like that section of the episode.
Late 70s? I think it's late 70s.
That section of the episode is really fun. I really enjoyed all the conversations with Brad and Mobius and Loki. The torture is like really like I really enjoy seeing Loki like do the Loki again, like becoming a villain, even though he's like kind of like, pretending. How much is pretending? He's pretending. He's a good guy now. But like I thought that was really great. The actor who plays Brad, I think he's really fun and really good. He's in like some big time show where people really love this guy, but I don't remember what it is. Probably some one of those like Outlanders or something. I don't know. But I for the most part, I really enjoyed this episode until we got to the end, where it's kind of like just like another episode thrown in with the big like the War of the TVA, which is like
right, yeah.
It feels like it came out of nowhere, man.
It does. It does. I want to highlight actually one of my favorite scenes in that episode, and it's just the scene where Mobius and Loki are eating pie.
Oh yeah.
I think that scene is great because Loki is just trying to like, hey, haven't you ever thought about it? Haven't you ever thought about your place in the timeline? Where did you want to go? Or what do you want to do? And Mobius is like, nah, man, I'm fine. I'm just chilling. I like this. I like being here. And it reminds me of like one of my own. It's weird because that episode kind of hit me hard where I'm at a place where I am at now that I don't like. And then there are other people who are doing the same thing that I'm doing and they love it. And it's really hard for me to wrap my head around it. But at the same time, and Loki is just like, he's trying to break it down, trying to get an answer. And Mobius is like, I don't really have an answer for you. It's just what I like to do. This is just my life.
Well, also like there is another side of that of like, okay, so what if I do look into that life and it's considerably better? It's a better life and I can't have it. Then that's worse. I'd never want to look at it. I never want to know the possibility because this is all I am. I don't need to know more because if it's better, then I'm going to be I'm going to be sad about it the rest of my life. So like, it's really kind of sad where like, he won't accept like the reality of the situation of like, bro, you're not a person. You work for a corporation. Like it's really sad.
We work for a very weird corporation too. It's like, it's there. But yeah, I absolutely love that scene. But also, I love how Mobius, Owen Wilson had me kind of going back and forth a little bit. Like the second interrogation scene with Brad when Loki locks Mobius outside, and Mobius is just like, open the door. I'm just like, oh, so is this Loki going rogue or is this? And then when he goes back and is like, hey, great, excellent plan. It's like, oh, thank you. It's like, you slide.
I knew the whole time, but it was extremely well executed.
Yeah.
It's like, doesn't he say Mobius could be an actor? You're so good at this.
Well, he literally, before they go to that scene, he's like, got any ideas, God of Mischief to Loki. And I'm like, so whatever's coming next obviously is a plan. So like, I never even for a second thought that Loki was actually,
but it was still, I found it well executed and fun to watch. Because Brad, knowing that was key, that like, they look like Time Lords, but they can also be like boxes and they can crush people. And I'm like, that's sadistic. That's crazy. That's real. Oh man.
Going back to like the key lime pie conversation, it is something where like the moments for that kind of thing in this season feel few and far between, where I felt they were more frequent in the first season.
Yes.
And like, obviously the season is much more reactionary. There's timetables, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
That needs to be done.
Setting up stuff.
But I would argue, even looking at, not to get too far ahead into episode 3, but just like, I don't feel like there's as much time or thought given to the scene where you would have something comparable about Timely and Ravonna talking with each other, right? I don't think that's as strong.
Sure.
And I feel like that kind of character stuff is just not as spread across the season as much as I wish it was, comparably to the first.
Yeah.
in terms of the Loki mischievous stuff, what I do like is I felt like this episode kept Loki as we should think of him more in mind than I think even the first season got, because this is a Loki who, again, before the TVA stuff, his most recent thing was 2012's The Avengers. And using the shadows with the horns, messing with his magic in that way, referencing directly the events from that. Like
I've had a bad day. I took over New York.
Like it was fairly recent. I think far more the like, you know, and I got mad because the Mind Stone wasn't working, so I threw him out a window. That wasn't tactical.
Yeah, I love it. Like, it's no big deal.
It's a really good self-assessment, but it's also, again, like keeping it in the context that like Loki might have learned about the alternate stuff of his timeline.
Yeah.
But even as Loki is trying to be good, he is most recently that iteration of Loki.
Yeah, I love seeing all the magic stuff.
Yeah.
Sylvie,
he has telekinesis. I just accept it now.
Yeah, Sylvie also has telekinesis now, which, like, well, she is Loki, so I guess that makes sense. That's fine. It's whatever. I do like seeing all the magic though. Like him becoming a crowd and Brad swings a bat through a dude. I'm like, that got me. I didn't think it would do that. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
I think
that was really good.
I'm glad that he's like using more magic, because like I love Loki and Mobius just chatting, but he is the god of mischief. He is an Asgardian. Like, use some of that shit, right? Like, it's fun.
Yeah.
I looked at the writing. Eric Martin wrote all of these episodes except for one, which he wrote with two people. But the first season was written by a bunch of different people, and you can tell. Like, again, this is one of those situations where with these giant ass shows, maybe having one person write all of it isn't the best idea, because you need more eyes on it. Which, you know, is a problem they are now thankfully fixing because of the WGA and stuff like that.
Right, because they're being forced to.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's really great stuff, I think, in the Brad stuff. There's great stuff on the table of
you're a villain,
Loki and all the villain stuff. Sylvie doesn't bother me too much when she shows up in this episode. A little, not a lot.
McDonald's?
Yeah. When she shows up, I think there's a little bit of I think her amount of dismissal about what Loki's trying to say is fair.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
At this point, episode 3 is a different conversation to me.
Sure.
About what they're doing with Sylvie, but in episode 2, I think it works.
I love where she's at in episode 2. That like she has found her own life. It might just be working at a McDonald's in Bronxton, Oklahoma in 1980 something. Bronxton, Oklahoma, fun fact, big place in comic book mythology, because during the Dark Avengers reign era, Norman Osborn shits all over the Asgardians, and they get basically Asgard is in Oklahoma. So there's a giant Asgardian city in the middle of Oklahoma, and there's a giant Avengers battle in there. It's dope. So I'm like, I like when they reference little silly things like takes place in Oklahoma. She works at McDonald's. She just wanted to live a happy life. I think that's great. I think that's lovely. Like when the episode 1 cliffhanger is like, what do you want to try? I want to try everything. Like, that's really cute. And then Loki comes to ruin her life, which is what he's doing. But also, you have to save the world if you want to have a world, which he says 48 times in the next episode.
Yeah, he does say that a lot.
That's my big problem with episode 3 is there's a lot of just like circulating dialogue of like, we have to do this or this is going to happen.
Well, there was also, I get it. Part of it that got me also is that like when he gets to Sylvie and he says, the reason I'm here is because I saw you in the future. And I'm like, you were looking for Sylvie before you had that vision in episode 1. Like you were saying you needed to find Sylvie. That it was important that you find Sylvie.
Sure.
You need to know where she is.
But now
I'm like, but now is this the only reason? This is what you're coming to the table
with? It's not the only thing.
But like pointedly, this is not a criticism on the writing of the show. This is criticism on the character. In the sense of like, I'm praising the show. Loki came at her with the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Right? He gets too focused on that future vision now.
Yeah.
The reason initially he was looking for her is no longer the same reason. And if he'd come with the original one, I don't think the rebuffment would have happened.
Oh yeah, but you need drama.
Right. No. That's the point. Is that this is a Loki's fucking up as a character. And I think that's smart. Because like Loki got too distracted by the wrong thing.
Absolutely.
He had a different reason that he wanted to find her. And now, because that's what he reduces it to when he gets to her is like, I saw you in the future. It's not the way that he should have approached it.
No, that is a good point. And I do like that. Cause like he is there to save the world, but he's so transfixed on like, yo, you were in front of me when I died, and like you hate me, so like we got to talk about this. And that's another one of those like Back to the Future time travel things that I love, of like you see someone in the future, like, I'm not gonna do that. Are you crazy? Of course she's gonna do that. We saw it happen. Like, I always love those loop arounds. I think those are fun.
Oh, because like it's really not gonna come up for any natural reason going forward. Just for fun. Who do you think pruned Loki end of episode 1? Because we're obviously gonna find out at some point.
I think it's Loki.
Do you already know?
No, it has
okay,
no. I wouldn't. I know. I would never spoil.
I think it's Mobius.
I was just about to say Mobius too.
Or OB.
I think it's either. There are two candidates. I don't think it's Loki. I think it's either Mobius, and him and Sylvia are looking for Loki in that moment, like the Loki of the past that they need. They need to do this to, or it's Timely.
Yeah, it could be Timely.
I think it might be one of like Timely's last. It could be one of like Timely's last good things he did. Is that he set this whole.
Oh sure.
Yeah, I can see that
because he definitely. Yeah, like do we have anything left to say on episode 2? Oh no, let's talk about we have to talk about the finale, the big time war.
I still wanted to touch on just like some of the Brad. I think Brad's tear into Loki, bringing up the mom like saying you're a villain. I think that stuff is all written really strong to make you dislike him.
Absolutely.
I think it's done really well. Brad's a real good shithole right from the start, especially with Mobius, where he's talking about the jet ski thing.
The CD.
He asked him about the jet skis in episode 1, and then Mobius starts to explain it. He's like, Mobius, I don't care. And he's like, well, why'd you ask?
Yeah. Like, he's a good shithead. Yeah.
He's really great at it, and I think he excels at like really giving it to Loki here. And calling him out for the villain, and I do think it like puts in proximity, like if Loki had not truly grown, this would have worked.
Yeah.
But Loki has grown as an individual, and this is not what he's about anymore. I think Tom Hiddleston does a very good job of the fake Loki performance of what's this do? What's this do? Oh, really shrinking you there.
Tom Hiddleston is so good, and it's not. I know he does other movies and like smaller work, but like I don't see a lot of those movies, unfortunately. Just because I don't take the time to do it. But like he's so good. Everyone on the show is such a class act, and they're so good. I just wish some of the material that they're working with was a little better.
Flanagan project coming up, right?
Yeah, he is.
Hell yeah.
Mike Flanagan.
Yeah,
love it.
Hiddleston's an incredible tour de force, and like part of the reason that the show still works is because you've got him anchoring such strong talent around him with Ke Huy Quan, Wunmi Mosaku, Owen Wilson, and now Jonathan Majors as well.
Yeah.
I think it's all really, really, really strong.
Yeah, I agree.
Performance-wise, I just think I think it's really cool. You need this weird contraption, this big like vacuum thing that makes that box appear.
Yeah,
it's so bizarre.
Very like like a old static retro.
Again, like the practicality of the TVA stuff just looks so good.
Yeah.
The TVA set dressing, the design of it really, really works. I truly hope that at some point there's some good reason for one of the main movies to dip into the TVA, even for a moment, just because I want to see it in one of the movies. I know it would only look marginally better because like they put a lot of money into it here.
But this is a big scale idea.
But just like getting to explore a moment of the TVA in a movie, I think would be a ton of fun.
Absolutely.
Deadpool 3.
Dude, it has to, because we know Mobius is in that movie if the casting is not lying to us.
But I really like that. I think that's really cool. I also brought up to Ryan, like, I really noticed, and I appreciate when you're looking out into the background city of the TVA, like in some of the like passerby shots, Ben, and you'll see the background stuff. I think it looks a lot aesthetically close to like what Kang built in Quantum Mania.
Yeah.
Which I think is really nice that they're keeping that kind of like Kang builds things a certain way kind of aesthetic. And I like the symmetry. It's not exactly one-to-one, but you're like some of the structure and architecture is very similar to what was going on in Quantum Mania.
You see that also with like Timely back in what 1893, and it's like man, like it's one of those things. It's one of those things where it's like it's just a small detail that makes it feel like yes, this stuff is kind of consistent and like building to an idea of the world building rather than just like we designed something totally different. Yeah. And the production designer of Loki season 2 directed episode 3. And like how do you feel about like the story stuff? I think that the episode is well directed, looks good.
It looks very
like it's just a set.
The shot composition is really good in episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
Let me take a quick glance at some of the episode 2 stuff. It's Loki, Tom Hiddleston again shouting out his performance. It's harder to stay that he's trying to say as Sylvie leaves.
Yes,
is a really good delivery.
Yeah.
I think that works really well. Really makes again like Loki feel like this full character. Which I think going back, I think season 1 struggled a bit with. At least I rubbed with it about Loki. Like I think he grew a little too fast, and now I feel like there's more connective tissue of like what he's been through. These are things that are now, these are part of who he is, not him going through motion. Some of the ways that I felt he was in season 1.
TVA, big battle, lots of action.
Yeah,
all the time on the
just the McDonald's bit where Mobius is like, "Tell me about Zaniac."
Oh yeah,
scary. Is he scary?
Oh, Ben, I don't know if you've seen this theory. I don't think it's real, but you know that teenage kid Jack who she works with. People think that's Mobius. I don't buy it just because like you don't. Not everything needs to be so 1-to-1, but he's like a young blonde kid, and people are like, "Oh, it's him." I'm like, I just want to throw it out there.
I don't subscribe to that theory. I just thought Jack is just like someone Sylvie works, just a kid that Sylvie works with. That's it.
Not everything needs to be so tied together.
Yeah. I agree. Not everything has to have a plot thread or everything has to weave together, but
like a timeline.
Whatever. I do agree that the fight of Doc's pruning all the branches could have been an episode in and of itself. It's supposed to be dramatic. Yeah, like it started, it ended very quickly. That's like my biggest gripe with episode 2, because we have a lot of good character moments. We have a lot of good essentially dialogue heavy scenes, and not a lot of action going on, but the dialogue is you're getting character growth, you're getting character development. Like the first interrogation scene where Brad is essentially reaming into Loki, and then you have the conversation with the pie scene, and then finally when Loki, the plan is enacted. All these great scenes showing Loki's progression. You get a little bit more into Owen Wilson as Mobius, and it's all really, really good. All of a sudden, random time war that's over in 10 minutes. Have fun, guys.
I'm not a person who needs every detail of a timeline thing explained to me or timeline story stuff broken down.
Yeah.
I just need to have some semblance of like the emotional and practical character stuff works in the context of it.
Yeah.
And going back to the point I was making earlier about the Brad thing, Brad seems like he's supposed to have been in the mix for a while, running on the timeline doing this. Like he slipped into this Brad Wolf life, actor, all this stuff, right? And that means he came from the different timeline where Sylvie's hiding. And in that same amount of time or less time, Dox has been setting up the bombs to blow these places, but like they haven't gone off yet. And this is one of those things where I'm like, Dox seems to be on a much smaller timetable, unless it takes a very, very, very long time for them to set up those bombs. Then Brad seems to have been on a very long one on his journey to find Sylvie and everything that happened after.
There's not enough setup in either of these episodes to warrant how extreme we are at. What's happening in episode 2 feels like a finale thing happening.
Right.
And it happens.
And to be honest with you, it made me nervous because it felt like that at the end of episode 1 when we watched them all going through with the bags at the end. Like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
And like I assumed all of that was to hunt Sylvie. And like if the intention was that they were, and like all of them were looking through different timelines and they were hunting Sylvie, and that was the thing they were doing for a long time. And then Doc said, fuck it, we're blowing up a bunch of the timelines. But it had been a process. That needs to be
we need to be checking in and saying, oh, what's happening? What is she doing?
This is the thing, is like I don't need to know every detail, but I do need to know, like, is Dox on a small timeline or a long timeline compared to Brad, who seems to be on a long timeline? Because they seem to be on two totally, like, Dox feels like she just picks up from the end of episode 1.
Yeah.
Brad feels like he picks up a long time later on his own timeline.
Yeah.
So like that's really weird. That's just a little confusing.
And because we're dealing with like fake bullshit time travel, like this, you can make this all work. Like you can give these characters more time because it's not like it's real, right?
Right.
But yeah, that is my biggest problem I think of the season so far is the end of episode 2, because it's like, and again, like B-15 gives like a great like, oh my god, they're killing so many people, but like it happened so fast. It's hard for me to care, really. You know.
Also a talented actor playing Dox, and I feel like just that standoff moment at the end of episode 2, like she's not given anything.
Yeah,
she has no presence. She's basically like with literally just a mask off another one of the other TVA people that are there.
Yeah.
Oh, didn't shout out. I did like the one moment from episode 1 where the guy who pruned Mobius apologized.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry. I was like, yeah, your orders were shitty. You shouldn't have done it if you felt bad about it.
Right.
But, like,
as he's walking out.
Yeah, but it was still cool to have it like acknowledged.
Yeah. You want to go on episode 3 real quick? You got any more notice?
Let me take a quick look.
Take a gander at the TVA guidebook.
Yeah, I love Wumi Masaku. I think she really kills that like B-15 delivery at the very end about looking at the destroyed timelines and everything. But I feel like that the Dox plot line, it just doesn't fit. Like the whole interrogating Brad and finding Sylvie, all that is kind of like an episode, and then like, oh shit, Dox is gonna blow up the timelines. It feels like a whole other setup of something. That just doesn't pay off as well as
it. Again, I don't know all of it. Just like going off like the next on episode, like we are returning to Dox, so like we are gonna get some comeuppance in some capacity. I don't know how, but like I'm glad. I'm not happy with where she is now.
But you didn't want to just be completely abandoned.
I did not want to. Yeah. So thankfully they're not doing that. I just think the structure of her in the season is a little wonky. Going to episode 3, I love this episode, but I don't love everything in it. I just love that we're in an old Western, like, you know, like it reminded me of The Prestige. I don't know if you guys seen The Prestige, where it's like crazy cool magic and science happening in the 1800s. Like, I just like that aesthetic. I think it's cool.
I love that you keep saying Western for Chicago.
But it is.
I understand.
You know what? You're right.
The period that it is.
You're right. You're right. Listen, are there any cowboy hats? Is there a single cowboy hat? If there is,
nope. But there's a lot of top hats. There's a lot of top hats.
Sorry, it's 1800 Chicago. It's not Western.
Like
John Wayne isn't there.
Yeah, like late 1800s Chicago. Like the World's Fair, 1880, 1890, whatever.
Old timey people.
Yeah,
but I really like it. People are divided on the timely performance. I get it. I like it. Because I'm as a fan of silly performances.
If I wanted to be really like nitpicky on it,
you don't have
to. Thinking about it for a bit. Not in like a trying to figure out like why it is the way it is. I think like Jonathan Majors, like personal stuff we're putting aside to talk about this. As a performer, really he tends to try to get into the minutia of different things. It's one of the reasons he said he was excited about doing all the different variants of Kang. If you are a black man at this point in time and you are intelligent and you're trying to make your own way, even if you are in Chicago where you would have potentially been a free man your whole life, there's a lack of confidence that comes with that. And I think like the interpretation of a stutter is less a like jokey comical decision and more of a conveyance of a life lived of being afraid to speak. And I think that's the intent. I won't say the performance always works to that idea, but I do think it's the intent of like a very smart black man who has to be nervous about every time he tries to own something.
Did you listen to The Ringer by any chance on this one yet?
The Ringer, yes.
Yes? Okay. So they bring up that, at the beginning of the episode when he's doing his big performance, he's like putting on like a show. Like he's a con man, but like he is hiding his stuttering with being theatrical. Like, you know, he's very much like almost like I describe him as like drunk William Shatner. Like he's very theatrical in the way he talks. But then when you get to just him and the other people, his stutter comes out and he's just a regular person. And he is masking that by being this performer, which again goes into like, I have to present myself in front of all these whiteys. So they actually like think about what I'm saying.
For what amount a Marvel show would allow them to contemplate race, which is on paper not at all.
Yes.
In the context,
like he's at least trying
in the context of the show, I think Jonathan Majors is trying to incorporate something into the character that would be emblematic of how a black man lived at that point.
Now, I understand people not liking how kooky and weird he is. Like, that's fine. That's just a performance. Like, you like it or you don't. I like it because, again, I think it's, you know, it's trying to do something different. Like, clearly this is not the different. I think it's different. It's very distinct than any other Kang that we've seen at this point. We've seen 3 at this point, technically. So, like, or 1,000 if you want to be weird about it.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy this whole like again like prestige of like yo it's new science in an old time and like here's the original loom and like all that stuff is really cool. Turns out he's a con man. None of the stuff works because he is so far ahead of technology. Nothing works, and because he was given the TVA book. I think that's an awesome idea. The idea that Miss Minutes has like this like foolproof plan of like, all right, so if He Who Remains dies, this is what we do. We go back in time and we make him from the beginning before any of the stuff happens. Again, that's a cool Back to the Future cyclical. Like, I really
and it's his plan.
And it's his plan, yes. Yeah. And I really like that idea. I think it's really cool. Miss Minutes is so gross in this episode. I love it. I love it. She's so scary. She's like a sexy HAL 9000. It's really weird.
Which I think begs a question of, do you think, just for fun, do you think Timely is always the man at the end, or do you think he's just chosen by this one to be that one? Like he just thought he would be the best candidate for it, or do you think he is in fact him?
Well, here's the thing.
Again,
I think it has to be him because we're on the sacred timeline. We're not on a branching timeline.
No, it's not branched. When they go to the World's Fair in 1890, whatever, like when Loki and Mobius go, it clearly says branched timeline.
Oh, yeah. Oh, does it?
When they give him the book, it becomes a branch.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
Okay, so thank you for catching that, Ben. Okay, so then they just found the best possible candidate. Yeah. What Kang variant in all of history will become the He Who Remains?
Well, I mean, like, and how is the system even reading it now that all the Kangs are possible again? Like, who knows? Like, is because the sacred timeline was about, as he said it at the end of season 1, the sacred timeline was about keeping the other Kangs out, but also the structure of who gets to him at the end.
Yes.
Not so much about his own past.
That's right.
So that's why I'm like, is this him? Does he become him?
It's not him. It's the best possible version.
Possible.
Yeah. I thank you for remembering that branch thing, man, because that slipped my mind. I love that idea. Yeah, it's like, wow, there's a million different versions. But again, this is He Who Remains' plan. So like he probably, all right, so if all this goes to shit, I know which timeline that I pruned before. This is the one. Which is something.
And I think that's only interesting because like it becomes about altruism more than about personal survival, right? If it's not him specifically, if it's not his own past,
then it's an evil Kang who will destroy stuff or whatever.
No, but if it's not his own past, he cares more about stopping the other Kangs than he does about ensuring his own inevitable
resurrection.
As the man at the end.
Well, I mean, to Loki again, he's right.
Right.
Like this, like,
but that's the thing is like when you're looking at it at the end of season 1, like it's a performance possibly, rather than like true investment in this. Like there's an amount of him where he's like, it's gonna be kind of crazy if you do it. Wow, like I don't even know what'll happen.
But he actually,
But if he actually believes like the Kangs are too dangerous, I will pick a different Kang who I believe will act as I would.
Yeah.
That speaks to a grander sense of like I care more about the preservation of life and universes than I do about my personal circle.
I absolutely love this. I think it's awesome because again, it's like He Who Remains is technically a villain because he's destroying every timeline imaginable, but he's also saving all of them in a way because he knows who he is and he sucks. I think that's awesome. I think that's why Kang has the potential to be incredibly cool going forward. We've only seen him in an Ant-Man movie where he gets his ass kicked by ants. So we'll see how powerful like they make him. But I like the idea so much because like we know from the comics and even from again the end of Quantumania, like a lot of Kangs is scary. That's really scary. Like a council of Kangs is awful. We do not want that. But now it gets to exist. So like how far they will lean into that is going to be really interesting. Right. I think the timely stuff is like really fun. I'm excited to see how long he's in the season for. Like, does he become one of our heroes? Like, because like there are good versions of Kang, you know, Iron Lad and like all this stuff. So like, it's very interesting. I like the direction it's going. I had problems with this episode too, and it's mostly with some of the middle stuff with the dialogue between Sylvie and Loki and just the repetition. It just feels like there's like 20 minutes of them just like, we got to save him, but I want to save him, but we got to kill him. And it's like, we've been here already.
You know what? Let's stay on the Sylvie thing because like I have a lot of problems with Sylvie in this episode. One of them is that I don't understand how she gets there. Like how she knows they're there, what they're doing. Like, okay, she just does.
Does she have a temp? She has a temp pad.
Yeah,
she does.
How does she know there?
How does she know that's what they're doing?
Yeah.
How does she know that that's where they are? How does she know that this happened? That's why, and like that's where she should go because
Unless this is something that like in the future, like in a future episode, something happens, but the time slipping's done, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird that Sylvie does it. And the bigger problem I have is that Sylvie, I don't feel like Sylvie as a character should have had to go through the motions of almost killing Timely for Timely to say, like, I make my own choices, for her to already know that was true.
Yeah.
Part of my problem with it is that she comes after this guy because she believes he can be the same person who controlled the timelines. And I'm like, you can't champion that free will and choice is the thing you believe you have given everyone and fight for, and then say, but not when it applies to him. And like, it just rubs me the wrong, it feels too reductive for Sylvie. I understand being like upset at the person and everything, but the way she charges at Timely, I'm just like, this is literally the polar opposite of the thing that you're saying is possible now. You are condemning him. You're saying his fate is set to become this person.
Yeah.
And that's literally the thing that you said you've made not happen anymore.
But like, I agree, but I also think that scene is really good because she is like, this is consuming me. I'm not going to kill you. And she doesn't kill him. So like, I think it took too long to get there, but I think that is the strongest. I think that's the strongest scene of the episode with them, because otherwise.
Oh no, I think it's a strong. I think it's a strongly performed scene.
Yeah.
I just, on a character basis, don't think it should have had to happen for Sylvie to know that that was the call.
Sure, I agree. I'll agree, but like disagree. And like, I think she had to have that moment with Timely. She needed to be confronted with him. I just think we didn't need the 20 minutes of back and forth.
I think there was a different way to go about it. Like, like if she gets looped in after they've done all this, and there's another reason that she ends up back in the story, and she's at the TVA and she counters Timely.
Yeah.
And in that moment has a conversation, and she acknowledges like, free will is the thing that she's fighting for, so she has to believe in it for him too.
Mm-hmm.
That's a way more online, I think, character choice for her than like she's going on the hunt for. I felt it was just to make her oppositional.
No, that's
in this episode. And like in a plot way, that's what it serves, and in a character way, I'm like, I don't think this makes sense for the Sylvie that we were supposed to be building from the end of the first season.
Yeah.
I don't think that this was the thing that was needed. I think there was a better way to have gone about the same concept of when she faces Timely, which would have happened at some point in the season.
Sure.
Having her being like, if I believe in free will, then I have to acknowledge free will exists for you.
Sure. Yeah. Ravonna and Timely get together. I cannot tell you how much I love the rivalry between Ravonna and an AI clock lady trying to get Timely's attention.
Sorry, real quick, just because like my brain was still processing through it. And it is one of those things where like when she is fighting Loki and he's holding him up, it is one of those things where that goes on for too long of her being opposed to Loki, and Loki's fighting for the thing that she says she wants, which is like, she's like, he's literally saying like, he's not that one.
Yeah.
He's not him. He's not him yet.
Mm-hmm.
And that should be all it takes. So like her pushing through all that is the thing where I'm like, this is just to like make her and Loki like go like that.
No, I agree. I'm perfectly happy with the final confrontation. It's the middle act where it's just repeating. Like you are 100% right.
Yeah.
If like, I wish
if she had shown up at the end and she's the person who knocked Ravonna aside.
Yes.
And she puts the blade to Timely, and that's the first time she's shown up at the very end.
Yes.
And she's like, because he could be too dangerous, and Loki's like, but and she won't hear it from him, and Timely says, I make my own choices. And then she's like, okay, holy shit.
I was totally happy
that
with
would be different.
with I would have been totally happy if the episode was just Loki and Mobius trying to get Timely, and also all of the 1800 douchebags trying to get Loki.
Right.
Because all that stuff's really fun. I love the chase throughout the western city of Chicago. I think it's really great.
That one belongs to us, you rat bags.
Yeah.
You can have it.
Oh,
just magics them back. He's like, never mind, Jacob.
Timely made mechanical trousers for a man that's supposed to make him taller. So what he does is he goes up to the guy and he shrinks. He's like, but sir, it did work. And he just shrinks himself.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That's really funny.
Or even like earlier when they're like they're like walking through the World's Fair, like Mobius is like, hey, we gotta go. Like Mobius is like checking everything out. He's like, are we sightseeing? Mobius is like, no, we're not sightseeing. We're just going somewhere.
They get like kettle corn or something?
Yeah, they got popcorn.
And like, did we need to do this? Like, did we need to? No, but it tastes great.
Yeah.
He just wanted to explore the fair.
You just want to go to the fair, yeah. And even like the little scene in front of that Norse hall where you see Odin, Thor, and Balder.
Yeah, that's the same thing I was going to bring up.
And Loki's just like, Balder's not that
I
tall.
forget you're one of those guys. Crazy.
Mobius is like, sure, everybody knows him. Balder the Brave.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the guy who was cut from Multiverse of Madness.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I really like that. I like Loki, like both Mobius giving the moment. He's like, "You're one of them. That's so crazy to me."
You're just like a guy.
and then Loki, like, kind of having a moment of looking at them and the music playing and just giving him that moment of like that life lived and what he thinks of it. Because there's also like we know he's doing all these good things, but like he's living a life partial regret because he is not reconnecting with his dad or his like he knows that happened to another version of him, but he has not done it. He has not had the good moment with his brother, the good moment with his father.
Oh, this is
he has not done those things.
Oh my god, this is similar to that Mobius moment of like Mobius is like, I don't want to see a life that was better. Like Loki got to see a life where his life got better,
right?
And like now that is his mission of like, that can never happen to me, but I can still try to make my life better.
Well, and like, and also, I think it's really smart that they don't like make it a dialogue moment, but like, there's an implication of like, because Balder's there, like, why isn't Loki there?
Yeah.
And for Loki to have to think about that, like, why am I not there? It's because
you're an asshole.
Because I'm not the brother I should have been. I'm not the son I should have been.
Yeah.
Or that I wanted to be.
Odin's son.
And I think all that is really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna say, I don't think Miss Minutes as a character works for me. I just don't.
You don't like her.
I really tried to like think about this since I saw episode 3, and I don't think she works for me as a character. I think as a representational AI inside the TVA in season 1 as she was, it really worked for me. As a functional character on the field, I'm not jiving with it.
Sure.
I don't entirely know why. It's just not 100% working for me.
That's fair. Yeah. I just think it's really fun. The idea of this AI who spent a millennia with this man, falls in love with him, and he wants nothing to do with her because he doesn't like partnership, which I like, which seems to be like consistent for all the Kang variants. Is like, I don't want a partner, even if you're like a nice guy inventor man. He'll drop you off the side of the boat.
Which makes me wonder, because like the He Who Remains has to be different on some level. Did he deeply love Renslayer? Was that real? Was that real for him? That's another thing where like that's a difference.
Yeah.
Right. That's a contrast for him. And that like none of the other Kangs are gonna feel that way. And like that's gonna be your barometer, is like who falls in love with Renslayer is the good one.
Yeah. Ben, how do you feel about Miss Minutes?
Honestly, I don't know why, but the whole AI thinking, "Oh, I could be your girl," it's like the AI who falls in love with their creator, wants to become human so she can be with them. It's like, I don't know why. I'm just like, no, we're going that route again. I mean, I know in case of the Marvel universe, this is like the first time. I just don't know why. It didn't jive well with me. I was just like, I didn't like it. I did not enjoy it at all. Like even early on when they're on the boat and you can see Miss Minutes obviously disgusted at Ravonna, like talking to Timely, and Timely's obviously thinking, oh, hey, this is a cute girl is paying attention to me. This is awesome. And Minutes is all just like scoffing and like, excuse me, I'm right here. Also, when she superimposes her face on that mannequin was terrifying.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's why I love it. I'll agree she's not much of a character. I just think it's a fun idea.
Yeah, I think my problem with her being in the field is I think she's taking away from the I forget her name right now, but the actor playing Renslayer.
Sure.
And I think she's taking away from that character. And I think that's part of my problem, and what I was getting to earlier about like how much Renslayer seemed to know. I arguably think there's a better version of this episode where Renslayer's there of her own purpose and motivations, not things that were being told through Miss Minutes, but things that she has been told and she is informed on, and she's there doing her thing, making her choices, being involved directly, and having her moments with Timely that are not half given to Miss Minutes.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a disservice to the actor, and I think it's a disservice to the character that I've been waiting for Renslayer to show up again since the first season.
Yeah.
And when we get here, I feel like part of her time is taken by Miss Minutes, who I'm like functionally like I just don't see on the same level as character interaction as the rest of them. But here she is taking up a seat at the table and time in the room. And I wish that Renslayer had more of that. I wish Renslayer had more presence. I wish I connected more with her motivations, what she's doing, why she's doing it. I wish her and Timely actually had those moments to be like, is this blossoming romance? Is this what's happening here? I wish it was more about those two crackling with each other, the same way that we gave time for Loki and Mobius. I wish those two were given time.
And here's the problem. I 100% agree with you. The problem is that just going off of just this episode and what we've seen in season 1, Ravonna is kind of a plot device because we know she used to be a teacher that was kidnapped and she's had her mind wiped 1,000 times. So she can't have that much agency because she's kind of a plot device for Kang in this. Because like we are going, next episode is like, I don't know, like I haven't seen it, but like, we are going to see what happened to Ravonna because Miss Minutes knows.
But it's time stuff. And like, we could be picking up with a Renslayer who has gotten more information or whatever.
Yeah, but that's like,
because like you could have the implication of like the things that when like Loki listened to the thing, it's been assumed by most people that was Renslayer who had listened to it.
Sure.
But now that doesn't totally seem as connected because Renslayer doesn't seem to be as fully aware of what she doesn't know and something like that.
I didn't assume it was Renslayer who listened.
A lot of people were. I was assuming it. I was assuming that Renslayer went back and listened to that tape, and that's why she heard that she was involved in that in that way with him.
I think
that there's a way you can structure a character who has gotten a certain amount of information up to this point. Renslayer can have grown from when we last saw her and have that agency and have that moment. And I think Miss Minutes robs her from having those opportunities.
I agree with that.
Reason that the character doesn't work for me as being like present.
That's fair. Yeah, I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. The one thing I wanted to say about, or the one thing I wanted to talk about is actually, I don't want to praise him so much because apparently he might be a very horrible person, but Jonathan Majors,
separate art from the artist. We're talking about just a guy in a show.
Majors brought it. I loved his performance as Victor Timely in this episode. I get why people might not like it. The way I see it, it's a choice, but he's a variant. It's not the King we know. He could become the King we know, but at this moment in time, he is Victor Timely, who is a guy who's no pun intended, way ahead of his time, and he is trying his best, but he just can't. It's like the Howard Stark scene in Iron Man 2. It's like, I'm limited by the technology of my time. But I really thought Jonathan Majors was amazing. I liked the choices vibed with me. It was, yes, they were choices, but it worked. To me, they 100% worked. And even his theatrical performance and his stuttering when the people talk to him, when he's conning the robber baron, as the subtitles have him called, I just thought it was great. I thought he was quite awesome in this, and I'm looking forward to more of him in future episodes as Victor Timely.
Yeah, and we know like Marvel's probably not going to get rid of him at this point, right? But like the fact that like we know
now there's a counter suit and everything.
Yeah, which is not gross, whatever. But like if he's going to be in the MCU for as our new Thanos, like I want him to dedicate giving every Kang a different performance like he has so far. Again, like at the end of Quantumania, he's like 5 different Kangs in one room, and they're all like
one of the reasons to be excited about him playing the part.
Like we know he's gonna bring it no matter what, because like he's a really talented dude, despite maybe being an asshole. But like I agree, I really like the timing performance. It's really eccentric and quirky. I am excited to see like they're about to bring a man from the 1800s into the TVA. He's gonna lose his mind. Will that turn him into a villain? Will that turn him into a hero? Like I'm so fascinated like by bringing a Kang on board this quickly. Like I didn't think it would be this quickly. And again, like I don't know like if he's in the season or the rest of the MCU or whatever, but like it's really cool that we're here with this.
Sorry, really quick, Sparkz.
Yeah.
I will say bringing him in at this point in the season is smart. I really liked it. Because obviously at the end of Quantumania, we get that little teaser of Loki season 2. That was the end credit scene where they're at the show, where they're at the temporal time performance, and they see him, and Loki's like, "That's him. He is freaking terrifying." And the fact that he comes in later instead of the very beginning of the season, it works because it's like, hey, we have all this other fallout to deal with, and then we go. It's kind of like a mid-season. I don't want to say finale, obviously, but it's the big mid-season extra wrinkle. It's like, hey, beginning of the season, we have this problem. Middle of the season, oh shit, we have an even bigger problem that still screws with the first problem, and now we have a whole bunch of other crap to deal with later on. Bringing it timely I think it sets up the rest of the season very well. just don't muck it up.
Yeah, I agree with you about him like setting up the back half of the season. I do think like the season would have been served better by being like Andor style split up, right? So first three episodes are about the aftermath of what happened at the end of season 1, and thus Dox going on her own mission to hunt down Sylvie and destroy the timelines.
Yeah.
And then episodes 4 through 6,
fixing the timeline.
Timely, fixing the loom,
yeah.
that kind of thing. And I think because like I hear you, and I think if this episode were moved and that other stuff was given like it's time to breathe, and it's like we did this bubble, now do this bubble, I would probably agree with you more about like, oh, he came in at the right time and that kind of thing. Right. Because I agree with you, like this sets up a good like this is what the rest of the season is. And I'm glad that like Dox will still be on the table and that kind of stuff, as you alluded to earlier, but like I don't want it to get like trying to do both.
And that's what I
wish there was more of a here's an arc, and here's an arc in the larger arc of what we're doing in season 2. Here is the fix the Dox problem, like who's running the TVA, who's making decisions, okay, solve that problem, okay, temporal loom, Victor Timely, let's do that next.
Yeah.
And I wish those things were cleaner.
And I think this is another problem of like this had to be 6 episodes, they couldn't make it 8, which like I think like this season specifically could have really used another episode. Again, we talked about
but it's hard for us to say until we see the rest of them and where we could maybe have seen some things move around. But yeah, that's where I'm sitting like right now is I really want to agree with your point. I just wish this slid down 1 episode.
Yeah.
And I would agree. Like I think like Andor's a really good template of like, obviously it's a great show, but like it's a really good template of this idea for I think all the Disney Plus shows, even if they're going to do mini 6 episode structures, should be doing about 3 episode arcs.
Yeah.
Depending on what the show is.
Or do
and
2,
like
2,
if you
2.
do that, or 2-2-2, but like do your little arcs and that kind of thing. There was another Disney Plus show that did a good 2-2-2. But I don't remember what it was. It was, I think, one of the Marvel ones. Anyway, Moon Knight. Is that what it was?
No. Definitely not.
Okay.
It wasn't Miss Marvel, was it?
No, I don't remember.
I don't remember.
No, it was Moon Knight.
Was it Moon Knight?
It was Moon Knight. Moon Knight was the one where he said, like, I looked at it as 3 2-episode arcs. And it kind of was, because the first one is like the him figuring everything out, and by the end, like he's faced with like the Khonshu stuff, and then the second arc was like him coming face to face with Ethan Hawke and like mastering the Moon Knight ability and all that kind of stuff. And then the third arc was like the ultimate like build up to the finale and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
It was that was the one where they were trying to design it that way, and like
I don't know if it totally worked.
Yeah. But I do think it's possible.
No,
it's viable to think of those things that way rather than trying to do like. I think limited series can work.
Yeah.
But you got to like really have your grasp on what you're doing across all 6 and like why they work together. And how that functions. Not to bring it up again too hard, but like Jodie Whittaker's last season of Doctor Who is a 6-part limited series that they did coming out of the pandemic. It's all one narrative, but each episode kind of stands as its individual chapter of what's building in that narrative.
Damn, like a TV show.
So they really stand out, but like it's all serving the grander purpose at the same time. And so I think that kind of design can work. But here I do kind of wish they pulled the page from Andor and they did the 3 and 3.
Word.
Because I agree with your point, Ben. I think it's a really good setup for the back half of the season. I'm just concerned that like we still have stuff from the first half of the season we have to deal with.
Yeah, that is the thing I'm kind of like the most worried about is like I have a feeling they're not really going to do any more like King stuff, which was kind of the whole setup of season 1 at the end. But like again, like you can't fight King if there's no universe that's there. So you have to save the universe.
I think that's a good question to ask is do you guys think this is the last season of Loki? Because I don't.
I hope
I think we get one more. I think we get one more. I think we get
with how far they keep pushing those Avengers movies. I think we'll get one more.
Yeah, I think we get 3 seasons before King Dynasty. And I'll be honest with you, this is also something I kind of wanted to pick your brains about. It's a little early because like we're midway through this season, but do you guys want a Loki show past King?
I think it could be dealing with the aftermath.
Yeah, because I think you could have a TVA show that's now like, what is the TVA and what can the
Oh my
TVA
God.
be without Kang?
Because my comic brain just went to the Exiles, which are a team of superheroes who protect the multiverse from problems. The TVA, not become exiles, but again, going from that offensive force to a defensive force, they like help protect timelines instead of destroy them. So like instead of it being, Kang reactionary, they can be post that going, all right, now that we're here and we're safe, let's save everyone that we can in case, when threats pop up.
Well, because like all the Kang stuff will always
it could just be Doctor Who.
Well,
Loki can just be Doctor Who.
This is what I was getting to. I kind of want just Marvel Doctor Who with Loki.
It kind of feels like it already.
And Sylvie.
No, 100%. They'd be silly not to do that. Loki could honestly be the longest running show because they're dealing with timey-wimey bullshit. It's just like, can they afford that?
Well, because I was also thinking like you can do all kinds of things to be like still Kang reactionary in the sense that like Kang will always be and Kang will always be eternal even after we deal with Kang and Kang Dynasty. And though you might not have Jonathan Majors always coming back and playing Kang, whatever you're gonna do, you can still be in constant like we're managing the timeline because Kang can always come back.
Yeah.
And like that can always be like in the background, but you can do other time adventure stuff in the mix of it.
Honestly, Loki could be the good what if show. Because you just go to another timeline and you just have whatever hero you want. Oh, he's a villain now. He's trying to destroy the universe. So like whatever it is, just Doctor Who shit. Like that opened my mind of like, oh man, they really could do a lot with Loki. But
I'm very much in that mindset where like I kind of want Loki to go past the Kang stuff even. But I 100% believe we have at least one more season.
That's such a fun. That'd be so fun.
Yeah, the more you talk about Sparkz, the more I'm actually on board for a season 3 of Loki. Not to say that I was ever against a season 3 of Loki. I just didn't know. I mean, I think we're still too early in season 2 for me to start thinking about a season 3, but I like where you're going with it.
Yeah. I really want a season 3 that functionally I prefer a season 3. I really hope they do the work and they can time this out. And we're far enough ahead that it can happen. I want a season 3 of Loki that spills directly into Kang Dynasty.
Yeah.
I want the connective tissue. I want the thing where it's like, and here we go. Like, let's do our somersault. Here we are, Avengers. Like, I kind of want that. Not to say that every character has to carry over. I just want the thing that happens in Loki to be the thing that leads directly into what happens in the Avengers.
We want the Winter Soldier.
I want the things to like go together and feel logical.
We talked about it. I don't remember where we talked about it last, but like we want that synergy, that good synergy between shows and movies.
It was on our a Fake Nerd podcast episode that because of the strike that came out a while ago.
Okay, yeah.
Where we were talking about the aftermath of the writers' contracts and stuff like that. Yeah. But yes, like I want that feeling of like that binding connective tissue, and Loki is the one who's most primed for it in terms of like the Kang stuff. And I agree with you because like I don't want the back half of the season to just throw a bunch of Kang shit at me.
Yeah.
I kind of want it to stay with Timely and then maybe just like a little bit more of the like, hey, Kang's building up, but it's important to remember that this is outside of time and this is immediately following the first season. So like all kinds of other shit, like Quantum Mania is popping off, but Quantum Mania is popping off because of what happened in season 1.
Yeah.
That was a while ago for them.
Yeah.
So like I want it to feel like that. And I don't want them to rush a bunch of Kang shit into the back half of the season. I kind of want us to just only be dealing with Timely, the Temporal Loom, the Doc situation, Renslayer, Miss Minutes. I don't really want to throw too much more at the wall for that one. And you could still leave Kang as like something that's coming, something that's approaching, like the many variants or like, oh shit. Like they fixed the timelines. The timelines are all turning into Kang timelines. There's a guy ruling all of them. Oh shit, it's Kang. It's Kang everywhere. It's him. He's everywhere. Oh no. And that'd be like the end of the season. It's like, oh shit, what are we gonna do?
Yeah,
do we go and we try and stop every single one of them in each timeline? Do we just try and protect who do we save?
That sounds so incredibly fun. But then you get into the problem of like if you have a bunch of Kangs in the next season, then like how big of a threat does he really feel like it for the movies? If Loki is a TV show that deals with, and again, that's not a problem for me.
But I think this is more the thing of like, because I do think they'd have to, I don't have the answer to that question directly right now. But this is something that they would have to figure out, right? Because like that would be the question to ask as the TVA is like, he's everywhere now. He's on all the timelines and he's got most of them. What do we do?
Yeah.
Because you're not going to go and like fight every Kang.
No.
That's not how it's going to work. So like, what is it going to be? And like, will it just be like the Kang who comes to the TVA?
Yeah.
Is it the Kang who established the TVA? Maybe they're only dealing with that Kang trying to right that ship. Maybe they go back to the beginning. They think they can they think if they can get ahead of it.
Yeah.
Rather than starting from the end, they want to start from the beginning.
This is one of those, like we were talking about earlier, Ben, of like trying to quantify how big these things are. Like in Loki, like oh my God, there's 1,000 timelines and King rules all of them. You have to like show that for it to have like to feel real, to feel like it's scary. And I just don't know. I mean, it's not like Loki hasn't know. Like I praised it earlier,
but I think there's ways to do that where like they can be trying to get into every timeline, and as they're there, like they don't even have to encounter Kang himself.
Yeah.
But it's like it's Kang shit, it's Kang shit, it's Kang shit, it's Kang shit, and they're like, shit, where do we even go now? What's left?
Yeah.
What timeline is left? Oh shit, it's the MCU. Like, you know, you can really like work that down, and make it feel like that's kind of the thing I think I really want is like, as we're getting to Kang Dynasty, I want it to feel like from the perspective of the TVA and from Loki, all the other timelines have been conquered down. We're boiling down. Oh shit, it's the MCU.
It's
timeline.
It's the Doctor Strange 14 million and one.
The last place we could go to try and stop him.
It's this timeline again.
Yeah.
I love it. That is a good idea, yeah.
Because that makes you feel like the weight of it is like they've turned to every corner. There's nothing else they can do. This is the last stand. And I feel like there's a way to execute on
X-Men, the last.
But I want that to be a next season. I don't want that to be a this season thing. That's too much for this season already.
Yeah, I don't think we have to worry about that just because we only have 3 episodes.
Exactly. And so I'm hoping that's why I'm like, I hope that they're not trying to cram too much of that Kang stuff. I think like the purpose of the show to like build up that Kang kind of stuff is really, really good.
Yeah.
And I think they can really deliver on it, especially now knowing like, we're going to have a strong showrunner. We're going to have a writer's room on the next one. And so like, there's a lot of things they can bring to the table.
I got 2 questions. One, do you think the events of Quantumania are even referenced at all in the season? Not that they like the TVA would know if this if like I mean, would they in the quantum realm? Like I don't even know. I didn't think about it that hard before I asked the question, to be honest.
I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I'm now that I think about it, I'm going to say no because I don't think they would know.
Because they wouldn't know about him in the quantum realm. I think.
Yeah,
they would know about him, the Kang before he got there, who killed a bunch of Avengers and all that stuff. Which is why I do think like I do think what's going to happen at the end of the season is that the timelines are stable now. Oh shit, that timeline's ruled by Kang. So shit, that timeline's ruled by Kang. Like so, that kind of.
My second question is because the way season 1 ends, and there's a Kang the Conqueror statue. Will we see that Kang in this season? Like that Kang who runs the TVA?
I would say
will he show up in the season?
Well, because that's the past of He Who Remains, right? That's what they've said now. Yeah, they did the retcon, so that's his past.
Oh, that's
when
right.
He conquered things when he started.
That's so right. That's never mind.
That would be that.
I'm already thinking about.
However, what I will say is they could do something really cool, and it might not be fit in this season. I don't know that I necessarily, but again, let's go with that. They're going to try and alter what they can do with Kang. They're going to try and stop Kang. One of the ways they try and stop him is they kick him out of the timeline. Where does he end up? Oh, he ended up in the quantum realm. They might be the reason he's in Quantumania.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Okay.
Because he was already like conquering the universe. They attempt something. They find out later, well, that didn't really work.
That'd be the retcon I'm okay with. That'd be good. I'm into that.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
I think there's ways, and I'm really excited about it because like we know we're gonna have more writers looking at it and at the table, and I think there's a lot of ideas you can do that's gonna deliver on it. So I'm hoping the back half of the season really delivers on Timely, really delivers on Renslayer. Those are really the characters I feel are like obviously Loki, Mobius, Sylvie, all that stuff. But like the character arc stuff, the information about characters I feel like I need to see happen is really Timely in Renslayer. I need to have a better grasp on Renslayer when this season is over.
I have a feeling that's what it feels like the next episode or 2 are going to be like.
I really hope so.
Yeah.
I really need to feel like she's a character who stands on her own and has her very clear, like, what she's doing because of her kind of stuff. Because even as she was giving that speech to Sylvie about like, I'm after order. And I'm like, is that really what you're after? Like it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like that's the context of what you've been chasing.
Yeah.
So I need that to kind of align itself.
I agree with you. I do have she's not much of a character, but I do have the feeling that she is someone who she is someone who she's chaotic. It's a chaotic good. That's the thing, right? You
chaotic
do anything.
Yeah.
She's chaotic good. Like I am for order no matter what I have to do. And like that kind of lines up with season 1, but I agree it's shallow. It's shallow. I need a little more.
I need her to be more than that.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The opening of episode 3 has the really fun Marvel Studios which I thought was really cute. The production design on this episode is in particular really, really good.
Again, the production designer directed the episode.
I caught on to that ragtime piano playing the Marvel theme. I was like, "Hey, do you?" I told my fiance, "I was like, hey, do you hear that? Like, that's the Marvel Studios theme through ragtime piano." I thought that was really cool.
Ragtime gal. What you got in your notes, Sparkles?
I think we've covered almost all of them.
Hell
so
yeah.
I don't think there's anything else in particular.
I
think Loki and Mobius are particularly fun when they have their moments in this episode.
They're on a tandem bike.
Oh, I really love Timely when Renslayer is like explaining what she wants him to do, and she's like, "I want you to go back to the TVA so you can fix the temporal loom." And he's like, "Isn't that what the wizard and his butler was saying? Why aren't you with them? Why don't we just all go together?" And it's like, yeah, why not?
Why aren't you guys friends?
Yeah, right. I'm really glad he voiced that. He's like, wait, that sounds like the same thing they want.
Yeah, but I don't trust them.
Right.
Okay, sure. Yeah. That's good. Yeah, that's good. I'm excited. I'm excited for more Victor Timely. I think he's a kooky, fun character. And again, I can't wait for him to I want him to meet OB, and OB is going to be like a mega fan or something. And he's like, "You read my book. You're the only person who's read my book besides Casey."
Yeah.
That's going to be great. I'm excited for the future of, I just have a feeling that the next couple episodes might be better because we've kind of got through some of like the weaker stuff, and it feels like they're only going to make that past stuff better, whether it's with Docs or the Sylvie stuff. So like, I have a good feeling about the next couple episodes, but again, like they could throw it all away and do something weird, but I sure hope not. I hope not.
Yeah, I feel like I think there's also an amount of like, you really want Loki to work, not just because it's a good show, not because it's just a well-designed show, but Loki working means Kang works later.
Yes.
And like you need that. So I'm hoping that wins out, because like even as I've had some critiques and problems with some of the episodes so far, like it doesn't bring it anywhere near like the bottom of the barrel of the Disney Plus MCU shows that we've had as far as problems. So.
I'm still like, despite having problems, like I'm still enjoying this more than like half the shows we watched. So like,
yeah.
It's just like it's got like that oomph to it, which is nice. Again, besides some story stuff, like it feels like they're trying with this one.
Even I still did think it was really funny when we got to the like all those timelines are gone. It's like all the good what if episodes.
Yeah,
all the good what if stories are gone.
Well, hopefully, like there's still more branching out. So like hopefully the TVA can again enter that defensive mode, and we'll just have the multiverse. Oh, like. Kevin, I think it was Kevin Feige. Somebody recently said every single Marvel movie that's ever been made is canon to the MCU. But I'm like, okay, you are really setting us up for Secret Wars.
Yeah. He went the the route DC kind of beat them too.
Yes.
But they're executing better. So
yes, we're not gonna have CGI fake men in our movie.
Well, you know what? I won't even say better, just differently, because like credit where credit's due, Arrow versus Crisis on Infinite Earths, which is really where they push the idea that, hey, literally every DC project is canon.
Yeah.
They really delivered on that.
Yeah.
For
the Flash
a network television show, they did a really good job.
And the Flash might suck, but like it's cool that we had Supergirl and Batman. Like we are in an era where like we can just do things that we want and like forget like canon, because like it's all stupid bullshit anyway. Right. Like let's just have fun, which I'm glad we're finally at that point. Like, yeah, let's just do it. Let's have fun.
Yeah. I think the next evolution past this is what I'm excited about, because we're like in the era of superhero cinema where they're like, well, we want to bring everything together under one umbrella and we want to celebrate it. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Do that with the Marvel stuff. Bring in your Hugh Jackman, bring in your Ben Affleck Daredevil, bring in your whatever.
Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider.
Do all. God, I hope so.
God,
do all of these things. Just like literally 3 minutes. 3 minutes in Secret Wars of Wesley Snipes Blade and Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider fighting side by side.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, cinema.
Oh my God, the Midnight Sun? Yes, thank you.
Cinema, baby.
Yeah.
Like, the chef's kiss.
Listen, I don't want to talk about this like at all, but like, if the only Nick Cage superhero that we get is a CGI shitty Superman, I will lose my mind, because he deserves better than that. He does put him on the screen, the real screen, baby.
Yeah. So what I was gonna say with that though is I think that's all great. Like I'm glad to do it. Like let's celebrate it, sure.
Yeah.
But then when we get past that, now that we've been like, canon can be whatever we want it to be, we can also be a lot more liberal with where we jump in and how we tell stories in terms of the movies and what you're expected to know and what you're expected to come to the table with. And that these things can integrate without you necessarily having to feel like you're burdened by the entirety of it.
It can feel, honestly, like, I mean, it's taken a long time to get here, but it can feel like comic books where you can jump in.
But comic books took a long time to get there, too.
Yeah.
So, like, it makes sense. And I do think that's, like, where we're heading.
I agree, yeah.
It's you go big, you go up, balloon, and then you come back down to get big again.
And it is cool that we are slowly seeing, because people are like, oh, what's the trajectory of the MCU after Endgame? It's like, well, we're watching it. And just guys, it takes time. It takes 10 years to build a saga, right? Like it's not gonna happen immediately.
There's also been like
twice as many projects.
Like I'm not going to say like, oh, they haven't made missteps in
how
they manage these projects, but also like the amount of obstacles that have been thrown in their way post Endgame is insane when you like list it all out. The passing of Chadwick Boseman, the COVID pandemic, the Bob Iger to Bob Chapek back to Bob Iger era,
even like the strikes and
through
stuff,
Disney Plus, the strikes, like. It's wild. It's wild when you list all the things that have been standing in their way.
Absolutely.
From being able to just have like straight production on the things that they want to produce. So
absolutely.
Credit where credit's due. Like they're doing their best.
It just came out that it's confirmed that the Falcon Winter Soldier, there was a virus subplot that they straight up took out of the show because of COVID. I'm like, well, that's why that show kind of feels disjointed at times, because they're missing half your plot.
Right.
Like, okay, I get it. All right, fine. Doesn't excuse it though.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it, because that would have been a lot, but not a lot. That would have been in bad taste. It's like,
it's not like people during COVID were making COVID movies in bad taste, whatever.
Right.
Yeah. We don't talk about.
I think there's an amount of sensitivity to that is like maybe too extreme.
Yes.
I like in that regard, I'm like, I don't know. I feel like people would have just rolled with like knowing you didn't do it.
It was a coincidence.
It's coincidence. That's like, tell your story.
Yeah, 100%.
Whatever.
Anyway, that's Loki. Woo! 1 through 3, baby.
1 through 3.
I'm excited.
We'll be back for 4, 5, and 6. Probably still sans Brandon. He got burned real bad by Secret Invasion, so we don't know when he'll be back on a Marvel show, but that's okay.
Yeah.
He's loud.
It's true.
I'm really glad that the next show after Secret Invasion was Loki, because anything else would have been a risk.
I mean, like what do we have?
Echo would have been. Like if it's not Loki, it would have been
Echo, and then
like I want Echo to be good, but boy, would I have not have wanted to bet on it right after Secret Invasion.
Also, they're like dumping that entire show.
Technically, I think the next one is What If season 2.
I don't know what that show is. Never heard of it.
And then Echo, and then
Agatha.
No, that's further away.
Agatha.
I don't know what comes after anymore, especially with like the changes they're making.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure.
Okay. Well, that'll do her.
Yeah,
that'll do her.
That'll do it.
You can check out more Fake Nerds Watch right here, where we do all that stuff on YouTube. You can check it out on the audio feed. We've definitely done our Secret Invasion that we've alluded to. Ahsoka, that's happened.
Mm-hmm.
Other things on the docket, if you are checking this out and in the timeline that it's coming out.
2024.
At the time of recording, not releasing because of the strikes, but hopefully the strikes will end soon.
If they don't end soon,
they get their contracts.
It's gonna be a long.
We're hoping that they get their contracts all squared out, so everyone gets paid what they're owed, and what's fair, and their protections they deserve, so that we can continue to support them publicly and put our episodes back out as well. If that is happening, some of the other things you can look forward to on Fake Nerds Watch are Monarch. Legacy of Monsters, which is coming to Apple, probably on Animation Station, Invincible Season 2.
Oh, yeah.
And
I would love to talk about Gen V.
Yeah, Gen V, that's around. And Scott Pilgrim. Scott Pilgrim show's on the horizon. And there's another big show.
Sonic Prime?
Right at the end of December. Huh?
It's not
oh yeah, Ben and I need to get together and do Sonic Prime on Animation Station. That has to happen. So that's around this time. We need to finish Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Wrap out that conversation. The My Adventures with Superman is still on the table. All kinds of stuff is still happening, guys. So there's gonna be plenty.
Yeah.
Also, movie reviews. We got them around. Basement Arcade and Fake Nerd Book Club have been running strong. They've been running strong through the strikes.
Video games.
Content to go check out. Spooktober is definitely over by now, but if you want to go check it out, we did a whole lot of Spooktober gaming. Highly recommend if you want to enjoy some spooky games.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, you can find us at fakenerdpodcast.com. Support us on Patreon. Like and subscribe wherever you can. All that good stuff, all those links are there. You can find me just really hoping for the best with the rest of Loki Season 2 at Sparkz Witty on Instagram and Twitter, SPRKZ Witty. Ryan, where can they find you?
You can find me everywhere on the internet at DJ Tony Stark. Oh no, guys, oh no.
It's still gross. Ben, where can they find you?
Well, you can find me not time slipping or time skipping, whatever it's called, at BenMagnet27 on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Threads. And you can also find me writing for Old School Gamer Magazine, Fusion Gaming Magazine, go to Nintendo.com, and play Mary Frankenstein on D & Dark.
Hell yeah. All right. Sounds good. We'll catch you next time here at Fake Nerds Watch. Until then, stay fake nerds.